So, all of the episodes for Season 2 of Marvel's What If are now officially out. I've watched all of them. I didn't watch it in the normal order, which they released day by day over the holiday season, and I'm going to get into why I think this was a pretty bad decision by Marvel. But look, I binged all of the episodes at once, and I'm going to give you guys my complete, honest review. With that out of the way, guys, hit that subscribe button. This is going to be the biggest year ever for this channel. I just feel it. I want all of you to join me on my journey to 1,000 subscribers and beyond. So if you're new, hit that button and join us. Now look, season 1 of What If came out way long ago. In fact, when it came out, I was still in college, and I think it was like 2021. We expected this series to continue year after year being an animated project that is somewhat connected to the MCU, but mostly not, because the whole idea of this story is what if something happened that was different than what happened in the MCU. So we figured, okay, we're going to be getting tons of these seasons, we're going to have some pretty wacky episodes, but no, we waited until the end of 2023, pretty much 2024, to get a second season. And waiting that long, combined with a lack of hype surrounding season 2, wasn't very helpful for this season, in my opinion. Adding on to that, they decided to release this season during the holiday season with a day-to-day schedule, meaning reviewers, YouTubers like myself, were having probably a hard time deciding whether to make a video every single day, even multiple videos, or just wait until all of it comes out, which is what I'm doing. There wasn't a lot of hype for it, there wasn't a lot of marketing, there were some trailers, and the trailers did look good, and I'm not talking about the episodes here. I'm going to talk about each one of the episodes, and honestly, I have some good things to say about them, but hype surrounding this trailer and sort of word of mouth is very weak for this show. And I have to be honest, before the show came out, I saw all of the titles of the episodes, and only 1 or 2 out of the 9 episodes really intrigued me, and I think that Marvel did a bad job naming these episodes because some of the content that's in these episodes is way more interesting than the title suggests. So let's go ahead and get started. I actually did watch the first episode on the first day, but after that I kind of dropped off and watched the remaining 8 later on, all in one sitting. So episode 1 is What If Nebula Joined the Nova Corps. Something they did really great with this season is really disconnect from the MCU and tell standalone stories that don't require too much knowledge of the MCU prior. They do a good job of explaining things, and this story is basically Nebula intertwined with like a cyberpunk Blade Runner atmosphere. Very fun, very different story. I really like Nebula. All of her appearances in the MCU, and I guess now outside of the MCU, have been fantastic. She was great in the first season of What If, but I think she really nails it in this second season. It was a very strong opening, and I'm not going to get into too many of the details. Basically, it's sort of a crime thriller whodunit scenario where Nebula has to figure it out. Lots of cameos from different characters. It was really fun. So after that episode, days later, I watched the remaining 8. And episode 2 is What If Peter Quill Attacked Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Again, I disagree with the title here. I think it could have been much more interesting. You could have titled it something like What If Peter Quill Was Delivered to His Father. That would have gotten me more hype because that's what this episode is. Yes, we have all of the Avengers fighting Peter Quill, but the story still remains what if Peter Quill was delivered to his father Ego. Very cool episode, not my favorite out of the bunch, but still a very strong entry. Now episode 3 is probably my least favorite out of all of them, but it was very comedic, very fun. Maybe that's the reason why it wasn't too serious. It was about Happy Hogan. It's actually called What If Happy Hogan Saved Christmas? And I know I might be in the minority here, but this was the weakest episode in my opinion. Still very fun. I mean, we get to see Happy Hogan take the Hulk serum and turn into like a purple Hulk. And of course, the return of Justin Hammer is awesome. Now, episode 4 is What If Iron Man Crashed into the Grand Master? Again, kind of a weird title, but the episode itself was again very solid. We have Iron Man being the one who goes to Sakaar and fights in the Gladiator Pit instead of Thor in Thor Ragnarok. I really liked this. He actually got to meet with Valkyrie and do all of the things that we didn't get to see happen in the MCU. We even get mentions to the Demon in a Bottle storyline from the comics. It was such a standalone story and actually had some really good themes in it. I was very impressed with this, but it didn't blow me away. Now, before this season came out, the episode that I was probably most excited for was this one, episode 5. What if Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper? I was like, oh man, they're gonna redo Winter Soldier and throw a twist on it. Instead of Bucky being the villain, it's Captain America, and Bucky and Peggy are gonna be there. And well, that's essentially what we got. This was more of a traditional what if story that we would see fans make up in sort of fan fiction videos and stuff like that, and they did a good job with it. This alternate version of Winter Soldier plays Bucky as an older man now, and Captain Carter is an older person now as well. And I think this is the episode where they also tie in Black Widow and sort of her storyline from the Black Widow movie, and I thought that was great. I really don't have too much hate for these episodes, or in in fact, any of them, as you'll see. But some are definitely better than others, and again, releasing all of the titles before the show came out, honestly, kind of hurt the show in the long run, and it, at least for me, kind of made me not want to watch them because they didn't seem interesting, whereas if you just change the title to what some of these episodes are actually representing, I would have been way more excited because the content here is pretty good. Now let's talk about episode 6. This was a shot in the dark. This one's titled, What If Kahori Reshaped the World? Kahori is a new character in the Marvel Universe who essentially gets the powers of the Space Stone. Her people ran into the Tesseract and some of them disappeared going to search for it in this forbidden lake, and Kahori finds this sort of lake entangled with the power of the Tesseract and gets transported to basically another world, utilizing the power of the Space Stone. And wow, this was probably one of my favorite episodes just because this was such a long shot, such a new concept that we haven't seen before, a brand new Marvel hero who is actually very cool. She sort of resents the people who left her tribe and went to this new world with all of these new powers, while all of the people back in our main world are kind of struggling. It's through this and through her training, as well as the adversaries in this episode trying to sort of colonize her home, that we get a very good, grounded, traditional story here. Standing on its own, you could watch just this episode and get a complete arc here. Sure, it has its Marvel connections, but it's a brand new Marvel concept and brand new Marvel character, and I think they really hit a home run. Very, very impressed. Episode 7 is titled, What If Hela Found the 10 Rings? And I think this title is also sort of misleading because she doesn't necessarily take the 10 rings and do the powers of Shang-Chi, even though she may in the episode once or twice, she doesn't end up with them. But the main draw of this episode is with Wenwu, Shang-Chi's father. Hela is sort of taking over the role that Shang-Chi's mother had in the film, and it was very interesting. Not a concept that many people maybe were excited for or looking forward to, but the acting in this episode, the voice acting, was very, very good. Now, episode 8, in my opinion, is sort of the, penultimate episode. They have to set up a finale in this world where there's disconnected stories. They kind of did the same thing in season 1, and I actually, unlike a lot of people, really enjoyed season 1 of What If, especially the ending. So episode 8 sort of serves as a part 1 to the ending of this story. And we have What If the Avengers assembled in 1602. Lots of fun here, lots of characters. We've got Ant-Man, Bucky, Captain America, Captain Carter, all of these different versions of Avengers, and they kind of explain maybe an incursion is happening here. We've got the modern world mixed with this 1602 world. We've got Hulks, we've got Happy Hogan, we've got just a bunch of chaos. And I think it kind of lost me in that chaos. I think this might be one of my least favorite episodes of this season. I know it's setting up the finale, and I know it kind of just jumps the shark a little bit, but in that it definitely kind of lost me because it was trying to do too much at once. Not bad and very entertaining, but one of the not so strong episodes in my opinion. I know this could be controversial. Now let's talk about episode 9, What If Strange Supreme Intervened? If you remember back to season 1, Doctor Strange was a very important character to that season, and he comes back here in a big way. Whereas Doctor Strange was the main character of season 1 of What If, we have Captain Carter here who is really taking the spotlight, and Marvel is running with her to the end. Now, while I don't think the stakes are as high as the ending of the first season, I do think the content provided in this episode was very, very entertaining and very satisfying. We have the merging of many different storylines from this second season, with Kahori teaming up with Captain Carter for this finale against the villain, Doctor Strange Supreme. Strange has gone to different universes and grabbed these world-ending villains and captured them, and is planning to restart his own world using the power of all of these supervillains. We get so many different ones. There's like an evil Rocket Raccoon, we see Drax, we see Thanos, we see so many different wild villains, and I'm sure there's tons of Easter eggs. If you guys noticed anything in any of these episodes, make sure you leave something down below. But this episode ends with Doctor Strange Supreme kind of redeeming himself. And by redeeming himself, I mean he sort of sacrifices himself, creates the world where Christine does live in the universe, but he doesn't get to live to see it. We see Captain Carter become another Gaia figure, and by that I mean she's just overpowered to the max. She's got all of the Infinity Stones. She has the Ultron armor. She's got her shield. She has Hela's headdress. She even sort of uses Thor's hammer. And of course with Kahori, she has the 10 rings as well. Extremely powerful characters, and they end up defeating Doctor Strange. And the lesson of this episode is sort of redemption. And I think one thing that this season could have done maybe a little bit better, and it did do decently with some of the episodes, was theme. Sort of like the first season, I would love each episode to have its own self-contained theme, and while while most of them did, I don't think it was as strong as season 1. But on the other side, overall, I do think this was a great improvement over season 1 in terms of just characters, content, and world building, which sort of leaves me in the end just kind of not in the middle, but just like, okay, what's next? One thing that I was maybe a little disappointed in with this season was just the implications and the involvement of the Watcher. The whole idea of the first season is the Watcher is not supposed to be involved, but in the very end of season 1, he does get involved. Now, I'm not saying the Watcher is supposed to do anything crazy, but he just resorts to that narrator form throughout this entire season. Now, the big stinger at the end of season 2 is Captain Carter wants to go back to her timeline now that everything has been fixed, but before that, she wants to take the scenic route. She wants to go see things. And the Watcher's like, you have no idea. He takes her to the giant Yggdrasil timeline tree that we see at the end of Loki season 2. So like, what does this mean? Is Loki going to be recruiting all of these heroes, all of these supreme characters that we're sort of theorizing for the Kang Dynasty or Avengers 5, whatever they're going to call it? Maybe even Secret Wars? Time will tell, but I think this was a good series. I think it was definitely underhyped and under-marketed, and I think that definitely affected viewer numbers. I'm going to be interested to see what the viewer numbers actually are for this series, but overall, it gets a thumbs up from me. Most importantly, I want to read your comments, so leave something down below. I will read it, and I most likely will respond. Again, thank you so much for watching this video. 2024 is going to be our year. Join us on the road to 1,000 subs, and I will see you all very soon.